But now Donald Trump's flirting with some of the same kinds of ideas. A 10% cap on credit card interest rates. Even Elizabeth Warren doesn't talk about that. No cuts to Social Security and Medicare, no taxes on tips and overtime, plus free IVF treatment. Trish Regan, co-founder of the investment research firm 76research.com, host of the Trish Regan Show, is with us. Does Donald Trump risk losing the high ground on the economy with these kind of proposals?
You know, the academic sort of conservative crowd, sure. Wall Street certainly does not like the idea of putting any kind of caps and saying, you know, you can't move that much on interest rates. The whole thinking, of course, behind some of the sort of fundamental economic principles of the Conservative Party would be that you have free market capitalism really dictating what can and cannot be done. So whether or not he can get anything through, you know, we'll see. I think bottom line, you have to remember, Leland, he is a kind of populist candidate, right? And I like a lot of his policies, and I make that very clear, but it's not perfect. And none of these candidates really on either side are, let's be very frank. But I think that there's some populism sewn into some of these policies. No tax on tips, for example, or the credit card one, et cetera, that are designed to help him gain votes.
Yeah, no question. Look, you may be following a little bit of the Stephanie Ruhle playbook that she brought up earlier with Bill Maher, which is same thing Joe Biden always says, right? Don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And there's a lot of
thank you very much.
Right. Well, but you're saying don't go. Hold on. You're saying
1,000% in agreement on that one. I think she's very anti-Trump in part because of the network that she's working at, and so maybe that was reflected in some of her commentary too. Although I would say, and I would hope that deep down, she came from Wall Street. I worked on Wall Street briefly as well, and then had a whole career, obviously, in finance and financial news. But what I would tell you, Leland, is that anybody who believes in our capital markets should not be for Kamala Harris, period. Full stop. Sorry, you believe in America, you believe in prosperity, you believe in a meritocracy, then you do not believe in Kamala Harris. So I don't know where Stephanie comes out. I'm guessing if it's
Stephanie earlier made the point,
right? But
and I thought it was a pretty good point by Stephanie.
She should know better.
Well, she told the truth, right? Which is she said, we don't question Kamala Harris, referring to MSNBC, because Donald Trump is so terrible. So I guess I was saying, you were saying the same thing, which is don't compare Donald Trump to perfect or perfect economic policy or perfect conservative thinking. Compare him to the alternative.
I guess I would just say I'm disappointed to see anybody that has a financial background would welcome a situation like Kamala Harris, because I think fundamentally you have to recognize the damage that would be done to the U.S. economy, to the U.S. capital markets, and to the wonderful sort of growth opportunity in the American dream that we still have today. I think that's very much under threat.
Okay, so Donald Trump tried to make that point earlier, held an event about farms, then went to the grocery store, talked about how prices had risen so much. Trump's lead on the economy, NBC News polling, January 26th through 30th, September 13th through 17th. Back in January, Trump led Biden by 22 points. Unbelievable numbers. He now only leads Kamala Harris by 9 points. How do you explain that?
I was surprised to see that. I was really, really surprised. And I'm not even entirely sure I can explain it, other than maybe some people are looking for some $25,000 handouts for their first-time home buyer thing that she's going to give out, which, by the way, will only drive home prices higher. Very inflationary idea, very inflationary. I mean, you have only to look at college tuition, right, to see how that all worked out when the government started jumping in with giveaways and gifts. So I'm troubled by that. I don't see where that's coming from. Is that the Hollywood influence? Is that the idea that, oh, turning the page somehow in her middle-class background is going to work? I suspect when push comes to shove, most of those people would still say, I would prefer where the economy was during the Trump administration than where it is during the Biden-Harris administration.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.